Joining us today now, we're speaking with Nicola Spaldin. She is the Symposium X speaker. Welcome, Nicola.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with your recent selection. This is a big honor. You've been selected as the 2017 Laureate UNESCO for Women in Science Laureate for Europe. Again, congratulations.
Thank you
What
very
does it
much.
mean to be selected for such a big honor?
Well, it's as you say, it's a tremendous honor, and also, I guess, a little bit intimidating. So the previous laureates are just really, I'm in awe of them. So, for example, last year the laureates for Europe and North America were the women who developed the CRISPR gene editing technology, and so this is a really hard act to follow.
Big shoes to
exactly,
fill.
Absolutely.
But you certainly are doing that. Now, the award specifically for women in science, how important is it to continue to encourage and mentor women who are interested in the sciences, a career in science?
That's a good question. Maybe I'd start by saying it's perhaps just as important to encourage women who are not interested in science, or who perhaps didn't realize that science could be interesting, particularly young girls in school who maybe were not exposed to science or had a bad experience at the start.
Are you seeing in your experience that more women are getting into science as the years go on?
I think the statistics show that the numbers of girls studying science in schools and the number of students studying in university the number of women are increasing, the percentage is increasing.
So good news.
Of course, one hopes that will continue, absolutely.
You'd like to see more. Now, your biography describes you as a passionate science educator. So tell us about the importance of not just being an effective scientist, but also a great communicator and teacher of scientific knowledge.
So I'd like to think that there is not really a distinction between science research and science education. For me, really, they're two sides of the same thing. When one's researching, if one makes a discovery and can't communicate what that is to one's colleagues or to the broader public or to one's students, then it doesn't have an impact. It doesn't get out of the laboratory. And as an educator, it's a very fine line between, for example, teaching my undergraduates, training them in my research activities, and doing research. They start off as students but very quickly become colleagues. And so I don't try not to make a distinction between the research and teaching components of my activities.
Your Symposium X talk, it's titled Multiferroics, Past, Present, and Future. So let's start with the past and present. Where has the field been and where do we stand today?
So multiferroics is a fairly new field. It's only been rather recently that we've been able to make materials at all that combine multiple ferroic properties, that's ferromagnetism and ferroelectricity, in the same phase. And so really only in the last 10 to 15 years have practical multiferroic materials existed. So I guess the past section will be quite brief in my talk.
All right, well, how about the present?
Today, I think the most exciting directions are exploring potential device applications. So now we have materials that really work, and it's possible to start thinking about what could we do with them usefully. Could we make improvements on existing device types, or even more excitingly, can we really think of entirely new device paradigms that might be based on multiferroic properties?
And that kind of leads me to my next question. If you can look into your crystal ball, into the future, what are some of the important discoveries still left to be made?
In multiferroics, I think the big challenge is to have controllable switching of the magnetism with an electric field, and to have that be robust and at room temperature. And then there are many fairly obvious, I think, device applications that would lead from that. But this is very, very challenging to achieve that.
From the practical aspect, for someone who's not a scientist, where might we see and understand some of the results of this field, multiferroics?
So again, of course, one can never say with new materials where their applications will be found, but perhaps the most promising, the most obvious, is in transforming all of the existing technologies we have that use magnetism. And conventionally, magnetism is controlled by magnetic fields, which require large components that use a lot of energy to drive. If one could then replace that magnetic field control with electric field control, which is a promise offered by multiferroics, then this would lead to improved miniaturization of devices and much lower power consumption. So that's, I think, where we think multiferroics might, at least in the medium term, have the most impact.
Understand. Now let's talk a little bit about your experience here in Boston with the 2016 MRS Fall Meeting. What does this meeting and other conferences of this sort mean to your work?
So of course it's an opportunity to exchange the latest ideas, to discuss with colleagues, to hear about new directions that colleagues are pursuing, and also to meet all of the young people. It's really fun that there are so many graduate students here giving often their first talks, and to see the directions that they find exciting.
And that leads me to our final question. Why is it so important to you, and for many of these scientists, to travel halfway around the world, in this case Boston, to meet other researchers face to face?
Yes, I think it's probably still the case, even with sophisticated video conferencing, that the most excited breakthroughs take place over a coffee or over a beer in the evening. And so one needs to be, of course, in the same place for that to happen.
Nicola Spaldin, thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you. You're welcome.